ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner pie. Esa es una que lo ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner pie. Esa es una que
Good morning and welcome to Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
And I'm Paul Ogden.
This is a kind of a grayish October. Oh, it's November 3rd.
Gray is good.
That's true. That's true. Very true. Our guest today is Judge Jim Gray. He's candidate for Vice President of the United States Libertarian Party. Welcome to the show.
You know, it's nice to be with you. It's good to talk about issues. Good to be with good people.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
it's good
it,
to
Mark,
be with you
and
guys too.
Good person on his left and you on his right.
Yes, but the audience is looking at Paul to their right, and I'm on the
Exactly.
left.
And where are we today, Mark?
We are shooting from Libertarian Party headquarters at 129 East Market Street in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yes, exactly. We got Rupert signs all over the place, and Andrew Horning signs, and all the other libertarian candidates.
And Shard Reed, Andy Horning, Jeremiah Morrell, and we've got Jim Gray running for vice president, and Gary Johnson running for president of the
Sign
United
on the wall,
States.
too.
The most qualified person to be president of the United States that I know of, hands down.
And Judge, we were talking before about generally about issues, etc. You were a judge in Orange County, California. Is that correct?
I was a trial court judge for 25 years. Prior to that, in fact, I'll kind of more start at the beginning. After I graduated from UCLA undergraduate, I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years in Costa Rica. Then I was being drafted out of law school after I got back and was a Navy JAG attorney for 4 years. Actually, was awarded a combat action ribbon on a training cruise, which is probably one of two people in the history of the U.S. Navy to do that. They sent us to the rivers of Vietnam, somewhat unusual.
Wow.
After that, then I was a federal prosecutor in Los Angeles for several years, and then in private practice for 5 years, and then I've been a trial court judge for 25 years in Orange County.
And then you retired as a trial court judge. Is that
I
correct?
did, beginning of 2010. Now I'm doing private mediation, arbitration work, and discovery referee, that sort of thing, which kind of keeps my hand in, and it's fun.
I believe you said off camera that you ran for the Senate, too.
I did. I ran actually as a Republican for the United States Congress in 1998 against Bob Dornan and Loretta Sanchez, and then I ran as a Libertarian in 2004 for U.S. Senate against Barbara Boxer and a fellow named Bill Jones. So I have a nefarious past.
Why? Yeah, nefarious path. So you ran in 1998 as a Republican.
Yes.
And at some point you decided to transition to the Libertarian Party.
Hands
Why?
down. Because I could not be involved as a matter of conscience with any group that would condone, much less assist, this Patriot Act, which I view as a direct frontal assault on our civil liberties. That was even prior to the National Defense Authorization Act, which is an equal assault on our civil liberties. Governor Gary Johnson and I would repeal those flat out. Romney and Obama are on the other side. You know, no one with liberal values would have signed the National Defense Authorization Act. And I will hold that against Mr. Obama and any form of liberal values he might possibly have. He doesn't. We do. We are classic liberals. We're also classic conservatives, and I'm proud to be there. Libertarians.
We were talking a while ago. Paul wasn't here yet. I think he was dawdling around doing whatever he does in the
Yeah.
morning. But
He was actually preparing for today.
Yeah, I was preparing. Exactly.
we're talking about what it would take for people to recognize that. I think a lot of people in Indiana view political campaigns as being something like a sporting event, and they want to back a winner instead of like backing somebody who's correct about issues. They don't look at the issues so much. What does it take for people to pay attention and say, wait a second, I'm not just going to throw my vote away on the same party, the Democratic and Republican combined. I'm going to vote for somebody who actually means something.
Well, this has been so frustrating because I really deeply believe that Gary Johnson and I have the answers. Gary Johnson is the most qualified person at this moment, has more administrative experience than both
And
Romney
Gary
and
Johnson
Obama
was
combined.
governor of New Mexico.
Yes, 1995 to 2003, very successful, left the state with $1 billion surplus that the next governor, Richardson, squandered in about 6 months. But he actually caused the streamlined regulations in the state, which resulted in the creation of more private sector jobs per capita than any other governor. So it's frustrating because I see these issues and I believe that we are on the right side of them, and we can really help with regard to our economy, really have plans with regard to jobs. The immigration issue is really not hard to fix at all. The Republicans and Democrats don't want to, otherwise it would have been fixed decades ago. It just goes on and on. So I say, actually, a wasted vote is voting for somebody that you don't believe in. And that and then you can get a little more trite if you want to. Vote for the lesser of two evils, you still get evil. But when it really comes down to it, I believe that if you are a Republican and Romney does not represent you, it's a wasted vote to vote for Romney because you're telling the Republican Party, hey, this candidate is okay. And if the Republicans start losing Republican votes to someone like Gary Johnson, the Republican Party will understand, hey, we really do want smaller government. We really do want fewer military adventures. Same thing if you're a Democrat and Obama does not represent you. So wasted vote for Obama. So vote for someone that you believe in, and that will bring the two major parties more into heel, because we're the only ones that are in the political mainstream today. We are both financially responsible and socially tolerant. No one will accuse Obama of being financially responsible, and no one will accuse Romney of being socially tolerant. So we're in that mainstream. We're about maybe 80% of the voters are.
When you're talking about perhaps the Republicans will see and start to move this way, in looking back in American history in the 1850s, when there was the last great upheaval of a third,
The Whigs.
The Whigs
Were out of business.
They went out of business, and the Republican Party came into existence, what we now call the Republican Party. Is it a matter of people in the Republican Party moving more towards libertarian positions, or the position of a different entity, or just dropping out and not existing at all?
I don't know. You can go to Mount Rushmore, and all four heads carved in Mount Rushmore were literally in a minor party at one time. You can start with George Washington. Of course, there were no political parties. Thomas Jefferson was the first Democrat at the point. Abraham Lincoln, like you're saying, was the first Republican president. It was a minor party with the Republicans taking over from the Whigs. And then Teddy Roosevelt, of course, was a bull moose. So it's in the mainstream of American political history. And then I truly believe that the Republican Party left me. I didn't leave the Republican Party. They really are so similar to the big spending of the Democratic ways. They're both the same. You look at George W. Bush, for heaven's sake, and he really began this whole not only tax and spend, but tax, borrow, and spend. He left our state with a $10 trillion national debt. $10 trillion. We're all upset, and should be, that China owns like $3 trillion of our bonds. That was a $10 trillion debt. Huge. And now it's $16 trillion. $6 more trillion to our national debt just after 3 and something years of the Obama administration. You cannot continue on this course because we're bankrupt. Literally, we're worse than Greece, and our children are literally going to have to pay this back, or we go into hyperinflation. Who knows what's going to happen then? It's serious stuff.
You were talking a minute ago, talking about specific issues. Immigration. Well, what would you do to resolve the immigration problem?
Really not hard. Not hard at all. It should have been fixed decades ago. Just like Governor Gary Johnson says, you issue work visas pretty liberally. Yes, you have a background check to make sure that they're not a criminal element and they're not having mental ill problems. And then if they can support themselves, they get a work visa. They can come across the border back and forth as they wish. If they can support their families, they can bring their families. Then they're here legitimately, so they can have a driver's license. That means they'll have to have insurance. They can have a Social Security card and pay their taxes with everyone else. No welfare. And then you punish employers that hire anybody that isn't a citizen, doesn't have a green card, doesn't have the work visa. You call it an orange card, I don't care what you call it. And that way you regulate this whole thing. I've got to tell you, first of all, please, I never use the term illegal immigrants. It's insulting. People are not illegal, but you can call them undocumented workers, something like that. I never get upset with undocumented workers. Why? They're just doing what our ancestors did to come here to have a better life for themselves and their family. But I get violently upset against this system. You can put a plague on the house of both the Democrats and Republicans. There are a lot of powerful Republicans, love the cheap labor, don't want to change it. A lot of powerful Democrats love the idea of all these people coming into the country eventually voting for Democrats. They give lip service to changing, they don't want to. Millions and millions of people are being harmed because of this. It's wrong. Governor Gary Johnson and I will fix it. Just one of those other things where we have the answers and we'll do it.
You talked about that President Obama's fallen short on civil liberties.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. You talked about the Patriot Act, which I guess was under Bush, then
Embraced by Obama.
embraced by Obama. What other areas? What about?
Governor Johnson and I were in Tampa before the Republican National Convention and actually talking to the Ron Paul supporters because we're in the same family, although we really, as we were saying earlier, really appeal to the Occupy movements, to the Tea Party movements, Ron Paul, across the board because we are classic liberals and conservatives. But headlines in the Tampa paper, I think it was the Tampa Tribune on the Saturday before the Republican National Convention. The Obama administration says they're not going to have drones flying over Tampa during the Republican National Convention. And that means it's the exception. Normally we do. The answer is we do not have drones flying over our cities anywhere surveilling our people unless it's attached to a judicial warrant. You know, that's what they do. We say absolutely not.
You were mentioning a while ago going into Reagan, I hate calling it, the National Airport in D.C.
Oh, gosh.
And the flag
Yes,
up there.
it's a symbol. Right this minute, today, November 3rd, 2012, in Reagan Airport, in the main terminal area, we have this huge American flag hanging down from the rafters. And what's on top of it? A surveillance camera. I mean, what symbol do we now need? We're a police state. And look, what is the soul of our country?
Freedom.
People still love the idea of coming to America, love Americans, would give anything to be citizens of America. Why? What makes us special? Yes, our soul is our freedoms and our liberties, and our soul is under attack today by our very own government. Governor Johnson is the only one that stands in the way of that continued police state.
We have 25% of the world's prison population in this country. One big contributor is the so-called war on drugs. In terms of, I was reading various things on websites, and I have a question about whether, and I talked to law enforcement who would dispute that decriminalization is the proper course to take because there's still an illicit market available. They would view legalization of drugs as being an appropriate step to take. Neither party will address that. They kind of either turn their backs on the issue of it, but I think that if you legalize drugs, you take care of one, you could address a problem as a health problem, and secondly, the gun problem would go away to a large degree.
Well, nothing is going to go away.
No,
We don't have a solution to almost anything involving human activity, but we do have a resolution, namely to try to reduce those harms. And I will sit here, saying that 90% of the problem in this area is drug prohibition, is drug money related. And I'm not minimizing the drug problems. They, can be addictive, can be
So can alcohol,
certainly
and I
harmful.
think we had-
That's my drug of choice, and it's more addictive and more harmful than marijuana will ever be. So let's look at this. And I think the folks talk about decriminalization. People tend to throw these various terms around without defining them. Decriminalization means it's still illegal to buy, use, possess any of these drugs, but as long as you stay within well-known guidelines, the police are instructed frequently in writing to look the other way and leave you alone. But that doesn't address the source of supply, and that's why the police are saying it wouldn't cause much of a relief. It'd be better than what we do, but then again, so would anything else. But if you were to, and I don't legalize anything. I think that's a term we need to focus on as well. Think of a legalized drug, think aspirin. There's no controls, no age restrictions, no special licensing. Your 12-year-old daughter can go and get a carton of it if she
Not
wants to.
mine, we've got cats.
Okay, well, your cats could too if they could vote. But at any rate, what you do is regulate and control like wine. And then what you do, you take away a whole bunch of money from juvenile street gangs, from Mexican drug cartels, from a lot of thugs, and you tax it and use the money to pay our firefighters or teachers and fix our roads.
We're right at the end of this first segment. We'll do another segment, but we'll be right back.
I'm on a roll. Come on, you're not going to stop me.